I used to think that I was the female lead. At least, I had always felt that way until Chloe showed up. After all, I had fair skin, was good-looking, intelligent and learned a lot since childhood. I came from a prominent family and was doted on by my relatives. Almost all the good things in this world seemed to gather on me. I had lived a smooth life for 20 years. It was not until this day that I realized that all the wonderful things I had in the past were just paving the way for my miserable future. After all, when an ordinary porcelain bowl is broken, it's just a noise among the noisy crowd. But if a carefully maintained crystal is smashed and becomes something that everyone can trample on, what a pitying and gossip-worthy scene it would be. And I was that crystal that was about to be broken. In fact, when I thought about it carefully, there had probably been signs long ago. My parents suddenly started going out early and coming back late, looking gloomy all the time. Their eyes would turn red when they occasionally saw me. My brother, who had always been affectionate towards me, suddenly became a bit distant and cold. It's just that at that time, I was so focused on Zachary that I didn't notice these changes. Looking back, Zachary's sudden kindness to me during that period was probably because he had already known the true identity of his sweetheart Chloe and had that last bit of pity for me. How ridiculous! We had been childhood sweethearts for 20 years, and I had been in the innocent first love and paid wholeheartedly for 5 years, but all I got was pitiful knowledge that he had known everything all along. Everyone thought that I hated that woman because Zachary fell in love with Chloe. Actually, that's not the case. I hated her the first time I saw her. Admittedly, I admired her hard work and diligence despite her poor background, but I hated her air of being so conceited. Especially when facing those of us with good backgrounds, she always looked down on us with a condescending attitude. You're just born in Rome. What's there to be proud of? I came to Rome through my own efforts. It was this sentence that attracted Zachary and also won my brother's admiration. But I hated this sentence. It was my good fortune to be born into a privileged family, and I had never slackened off for a moment. I studied hard and loved reading. I even practiced my walking posture over and over again until it reached the most elegant curve. I had been weaving a golden robe day after day for decades, just to make myself worthy of this good fortune. But in Chloe's eyes, all I had was protected by my family background, and all my efforts were reduced to nothing by her casual words. But no one else thought so except her. She was like a little white flower swaying on the cliff, attracting everyone's attention deeply. Zachary, my childhood sweetheart. Since we were born, our names had been put together. We were the closest playmates in childhood. Hand in hand, we walked into adolescence together, feeling the budding of the innocent love, watering each other with ambiguity, just waiting for this little bud to grow and bloom so that we could harvest the fruit of love. However, after Chloe showed up, this bud of love was trampled to pieces. That boy who refused everyone at the ball and always reserved the first dance for me. That boy who only played the violin for me and always gave me a solo performance. That boy who would always cancel all his arrangements and accompany me to take a walk by the seaside whenever I had a whim. He was gone. I could no longer see myself in his eyes, and I was no longer his top priority in his arrangements. All he left me was a sentence: I only regard you as my sister. It seemed that the past 20 years were just a dream, and the engagement arranged by our two families in childhood had become a joke among children. Suddenly, we became strangers who kept a proper distance from each other. How could I accept this? How could I possibly accept it? I tried every means to win my boy back, but all I got was his colder and colder attitude each time. In the end, everyone was blaming me. Even my brother, who used to always tease me about Zachary, only said to me, "Why are you so unreasonable and immature?" It was like a collective amnesia. No one remembered the years when I had an ambiguous relationship with Zachary, and no one remembered that I was supposed to be Zachary's fiancée. Chloe took my place and appeared beside Zachary, the only poor student admitted exceptionally to the elite university, with excellent grades, beautiful and stubborn. The young master who was always arrogant because of his wealth and power bent his haughty posture only for her. Their love story, like an idle drama, was spread in every corner. It seemed that overnight, I became an outsider who didn't fit in at all. I didn't understand where it had gone wrong. I had been with Zachary for 20 years, and I thought that the bond between us was unbreakable, but just 3 months, only 3 months. Everything was gone, the love was gone, and now my home was gone too. They told me that I wasn't their biological daughter. Chloe was 20 years ago, due to a sudden heavy rainstorm, the whole city was flooded. In the chaotic hospital, 2 pregnant women gave birth at the same time, and the 2 baby girls had their lives exchanged by that rainstorm. When I saw my parents crying out of control while holding Chloe and saying sorry over and over again, my brother was standing beside Chloe with red eyes, his hands hovering over her head, trembling, wanting to touch her but hesitating. Zachary was standing beside her like a knight, with a mixed expression of joy and sadness on his face. It felt like something had been brutally ripped away from my body, and the wind blowing through the hall was full of coldness. I couldn't help but take a few steps forward. My brother was the first to notice me. His expression changed and he quickly stepped forward to block Chloe's figure, with a strange look of vigilance on his face. "Jewel, what do you want to do?" Jewel, that's my name, because I was the most precious treasure of my parents. This name suddenly seemed a bit ridiculous when it came out of my family's mouths with hostility. I opened my mouth, but couldn't say a word. What did I want to do? I hadn't done anything. I didn't even know why my life had been turned upside down overnight. Zachary frowned tightly, and my parents, who used to love me the most, also had an embarrassed look on their faces. It was like a harmonious family banquet, and I suddenly became like a fishbone stuck in everyone's throat. "Jewel, you should already know what's going on. Chloe is our real daughter. But because of our negligence, she had been wandering outside and suffering for 20 years. We all owe her. I hope you will be nice to her in the future. Jewel, you have enjoyed Chloe's life for 20 years. You owe her. The engagement between you and me was also fake. The one who should have an engagement with me is Chloe. Don't pester me any more in the future. Jewel, you're not young anymore. You should be sensible. Your biological parents passed away one after another in the past few years. You grew up in the Jewel family. We're still a family, but don't make things difficult for Chloe anymore." They were all so strange. Everyone in front of me was so strange. I didn't come here to make trouble. I just wanted to hear a sentence like, "Are you okay?" Chloe was the victim. So was I wrong? I didn't know anything. I thought these people in front of me were my blood relatives and the ones I loved deeply. Even if you want to abandon a picked-up puppy, you should at least pat it before throwing it away, right? But the vigilant looks and the blaming tones in front of me made me become like a stray dog on the roadside that had to leave in a hurry as long as it was kicked. It felt like someone was choking my throat, making it hard for me to breathe. Amid the chaotic buzzing sound, I heard a childlike innocent voice. "Congratulations to the host for completing the side mission. Next, please try hard to win over Zachary and Truett." Our whole family had moved a week ago. Our previous house was a villa halfway up the mountain in the suburbs. Chloe thought it was too far away and inconvenient, so Dad arranged for the whole family to move the next day. We moved to a single-family courtyard not far from the school. All the decorations and furnishings were arranged according to Chloe's preferences. The Cantonese cuisine chef at home was gone because Chloe loved Hunan cuisine. The cat at home was also given away because Chloe was allergic to cat hair. But I loved Cantonese cuisine the most. And the cat was raised by me for 3 years, and there was a glass greenhouse in the villa that I had taken good care of for several years. But I didn't say anything, not even a single question, because I discovered Chloe's secret. That day, when that childlike innocent voice rang out, 2 words popped up in my mind. System. Then it was like someone stuffed a piece of knowledge that didn't belong to me into my head. I understood Chloe's identity. She came from another space. They were called hosts, coming into a certain body in this world in the form of a soul, just like reincarnation in a borrowed body. The system was something that helped her, like a cheat in a game. It would issue a series of tasks to the host, and the host could get many rewards by completing the tasks. I didn't know why these strange things appeared in my mind. I had tried to search online, but found nothing. Instead, I found a bunch of time travel novels. But none of them had the words system or task. So I decided to wait and see what would happen. When Chloe ate Cantonese cuisine, I heard her communicating with the system about how delicious the food was, but the next moment she frowned slightly. Now, even if she lost a single hair, everyone would be on high alert. With this frown, the whole family was alarmed. Chloe said it was okay and the food was delicious, but every bite she swallowed seemed reluctant. Dad immediately stood up and asked the nanny to take the dish away. My brother picked up his phone and started looking for restaurants. Mom carefully asked Chloe about her favorite taste. It was like watching a play. When Chloe said with a bitter smile and in a calm tone, "It doesn't matter. I used to eat the cheapest boxed meals. I'm not picky. I'm already very happy to be able to eat such delicious food." The play reached its climax. Mom covered her mouth and quietly turned her head away, trying hard to hold back her tears until her whole body was trembling. Dad sat stiffly on the chair. After a long while, he stretched out his hand and patted Mom's trembling body and let out a long sigh. My brother gently comforted her and carefully asked if she liked spicy food or sweet food. It was as if he was talking to a dandelion, and his breath was very gentle. I was like an audience, sitting by. Seeing that everyone had confirmed Chloe's taste and decided to fire the Cantonese cuisine chef at home and replace him with a Hunan cuisine chef, I finally couldn't bear it anymore. But in the next second, I shut my mouth tightly again, because Chloe asked, "But Jewel loves Cantonese cuisine very much, right? It's not appropriate to change the chef like this, is it?" Suddenly, all the eyes were focused on me. The audience. Mom's face showed a bit of regret, and Dad and my brother looked at each other, both with a look of belated embarrassment. I understood what they meant. They just forgot my existence. Before anyone could speak, Chloe suddenly looked up at everyone and said with a bit of disappointment, "It doesn't matter. Jewel has lived in this family for so many years, and many things have become habits that are hard to change in a short time. Everyone can accompany Jewel to eat Cantonese cuisine, and I can adapt too." Host, what you said is so brilliant. I almost feel sorry for you, you poor little thing. Come on. Although I was an unknown actress before, I graduated from the Drama Academy after all. Just wait and see. Jewel is so proud that she definitely won't be able to stand it and will be unhappy. The alternating voices seemed to split Chloe in front of my eyes into two halves. One half was the pitiful Cinderella, and the other half was the vicious and arrogant queen. Unfortunately, I was the only one who could see both sides. Everyone else would only shed tears for Cinderella. Once again, I saw the dissatisfaction and heartache on the faces of my relatives. They were dissatisfied that I had enjoyed their favor for an extra 20 years, and they felt sorry for Chloe for having missed out on their favor for 20 years. "Jewel, Chloe doesn't like Cantonese cuisine. Let's hire a Hunan cuisine chef for the family in the future." Look, Mom and Dad didn't like Cantonese cuisine before either, but they learned to eat it for you. You should also learn to care about your sister. Yes, sister. Although Chloe and I were born on the same day, month, and year at the same time, they made Chloe my younger sister. Because the elder sister should give way to the younger sister, their love for Chloe spread to every insignificant corner. I understand that they felt indebted to this daughter who had been separated from them for many years, but why did they use me to make up for that indebtedness? I would rather they had told me directly back then, "You can go. You're not our daughter." A quick and sharp cut would be better than saying they were reluctant to let me go but still keeping me as a member of the Truitt family while gradually severing the emotional bond between us with a dull knife. I looked into Chloe's clear eyes and swallowed the surging emotions as if swallowing broken glass, then forced a smile. Mom and Dad are right. Since Chloe likes Hunan cuisine, let's hire a Hunan cuisine chef. Everyone's expressions began to warm up, and the harmonious drama of affection resumed. I dutifully played the role of an audience. The whispers between Chloe and the system reached my ears. They were all criticizing me. They accused me of suddenly becoming so spineless and not getting angry, which made them lose the opportunity to win favor in front of the Jewel family members and miss a good chance to advance the task progress. Yes, the task. Having Zachary wasn't enough for them. They also wanted to win over my brother Truett, the adopted son of the Jewell family. And my existence was the biggest obstacle for them. So they wanted to drive me away. When I first heard Chloe communicating with the system about this task, the feelings of nausea and helplessness made me tremble. Brother is the only son of Dad's best friend. Soon after he was born, his family underwent a huge change. His biological father entrusted the hard-won family property and his young son to Dad and then followed his wife who died tragically in the accident. The Jewell family wasn't as powerful as it is now back then. It was because of this help that they rose rapidly and achieved their current status. Although there's no blood relationship, in everyone's hearts over the years, he is the biological son of the Jewell family. Mom often said that although brother wasn't born from her womb, he was the best gift God gave her and the fate chosen by God for her. When brother was 18, Dad gave him the position of heir without hesitation. Brother also cherished this fate very much. He respected his parents, cared for his sisters, and was always afraid that he didn't give enough. When Chloe's true identity was revealed, he felt more sorry for this sister who had been wandering outside than anyone else. But now she said she wanted to make this brother who loved her fall under her spell too. Disgusting, so disgusting. They occupied Chloe's body. But they never regarded themselves as Chloe. They just borrowed this body to satisfy their own selfish desires. Having a forbidden love with the handsome and gentle adopted brother, how exciting. I thought of the real Chloe, the girl who had studied hard for 18 years and was self-reliant. If she knew that her body would be occupied by outsiders and used to do such disgusting things before she entered the university she had dreamed of, she would probably rather be burned to ashes by a big fire than leave a whole body behind. The Hunan cuisine restaurant sent a sumptuous meal. I picked up my chopsticks and ate some, watching them with a smile as they gathered around Chloe to ask if the food was to her taste. It doesn't matter if everyone has forgotten that I love Cantonese cuisine because of my serious stomach problem. It doesn't matter if everyone doesn't remember the harmonious days of the past 20 years. I still remember, and I won't let this woman ruin this family. Today is Chloe's birthday. Mom and Dad booked the most luxurious hotel in the city. All the LED screens in the city were playing birthday congratulations for Chloe. Endless fireworks, a red carpet covered with flowers, the long and short lenses of reporters, and celebrities from all walks of life. The Jewell family used their wealth to announce to everyone the existence of Chloe. I stood in the crowd and watched Chloe and Zachary walking slowly arm in arm. Everyone made way for them. Those two familiar voices were chattering about the price of the dresses they were wearing and how luxurious the jewelry was. This outsider was a third-rate little star in her previous life. Now that she finally got to live a wealthy life, she had been suppressing herself all the time to maintain an image of being self-reliant and stubborn. Now that she could finally satisfy her desire for money under the pretext of her birthday, she was extremely excited and kept talking to the system nonstop. I also heard their comments about me. System, look. Jewell really wore the dress that I didn't choose. This dress was specially ordered by brother according to my preferences. I told her to wear it, and she really wore it obediently. I wonder if she's happy wearing the dress that I didn't want. She's probably jealous of the host in her heart. She doesn't look as good in that dress as the host. She used to look down on the host everywhere. Now she's been slapped in the face. I'm so annoyed just seeing her. She's just a fake heiress, pretending to be more noble than anyone else. She used to be so arrogant, but now she's still staying in the Jewell family obediently, pretending to be stupid to please me. I'll drive her away sooner or later. She still wants to compete with me for Zachary. Dream on. There were several moments when I really wanted to tear off the gauze on the skirt and stuff it into Chloe's mouth. But my self-cultivation over the years restrained me. On such an occasion, every move had to be just right. The Jewell family had a different status. As the daughter of the Jewell family, I definitely couldn't do anything to disgrace the family. Even though I'm not their darling anymore, the habits engraved in my bones couldn't be changed. I watched them, the golden couple, walking into the center of the banquet with a perfect smile and then appropriately expressed a few words of praise for Chloe with the people around me. Then I turned around and left to find a corner to sit down. Today's protagonist wasn't me, so of course I had to avoid the limelight and definitely not give Chloe any chance to take advantage of the situation. However, there were always some people who didn't know how to behave. TSK, Jewel, you've also come to this. Are you dressing like this to imitate Chloe? It's really like the ugly girl trying to imitate the beautiful one. Hannah, my high school classmate and also a former suitor of Zachary, always liked to pick on me after being publicly rejected by Zachary when she confessed her love. I really don't understand this kind of woman. Without me, would Zachary not have rejected you? It was Zachary who was rude and said harsh words in public, but instead of holding a grudge against him, she always had a problem with me. Hannah, long time no see. I nodded politely and smiled. Jewel, you're really thick-skinned. If I were you, I wouldn't dare to go out and show my face. Your fiancé has been snatched away, and even the position of the eldest daughter belongs to someone else. I heard that you didn't like Chloe before. How does it feel to be stepped on by the person you dislike? Hannah bent down slightly, leaned forward a little, stared at every inch of my face with her eyes wide open, and had a smile of suppressed pleasure on her face, looking a bit ferocious, like a wild dog encountering an injured lion. I told myself in my heart that I must remember Hannah's ferocious face and never show such a disadvantaged posture in front of Chloe. Hannah, I said softly, please maintain your social etiquette. There are so many eyes watching. Do you think others don't know what you know? Look who else is as impatient as you to kick someone when they're down. The Jewel family hasn't said anything to me yet, but you couldn't hold back first. You're slapping the Jewel family in the face. Are you afraid that others won't know that you're vicious, petty, and can't be presentable? I smiled gently and watched with satisfaction as anger rose on Hannah's face, but she had to suppress it forcibly, barely squeezed out a gentle smile, stood up straight, and pretended that she had just come to exchange greetings with me before leaving in a hurry. I had been outstanding for a whole 20 years. There were many people who didn't like me, and I had heard all kinds of rumors. But I didn't care. People who didn't matter to me couldn't hurt me no matter what they said. I also liked to see these people jumping with anger in front of me but being helpless against me. From a distance, I saw Chloe whispering something to Zachary, and Zachary looked at me with a hesitant expression. After a while, Zachary walked over. The moment he stopped in front of me, I was in a daze and thought I had gone back to the past. The next second, he should have stretched out his hand to invite me to dance the first dance. Jewel, Chloe wants you to come over and cut the cake with her. She said that today is also your birthday and we should celebrate together. Jewel, he didn't used to call me that. He always liked to call me a Bayo, with the last syllable drawn out a bit, as if these two words rolled around on his tongue, soaked with affection before he was willing to say them out. Okay. I answered crisply, but couldn't help feeling disappointed in my heart. It seemed that everyone was busy admiring the protagonist and no one remembered that my birthday was also today. I stood up, and at the moment when we passed by each other, Zachary subconsciously moved aside, as if he was afraid of having any connection with me. Suddenly, I remembered a small incident in high school. When I was in high school, there was a transfer student who liked Zachary very much. Whenever she saw Zachary, she would stick to him, acting as if I was just a backdrop standing beside them. Zachary never paid attention to her and didn't even let her touch his clothes. Once, I was talking with Zachary in the corridor. That girl smiled and called his name, then skipped over like a little deer, reaching out her hand to grab Zachary's sleeve. Zachary dodged just like he did now, without even looking at her. Instead, he grasped my wrist and pulled me out of the corridor. I don't remember what expression that girl had at that time. I only remember that when I looked at Zachary's side face back then, a feeling of sweetness welled up in my heart. At that time, I had never thought that there would be days like this now. Almost masochistically, I slowly elongated and magnified his evasive actions in my mind. I accumulated those bitter feelings into ice and poured them over the past feelings again and again, praying to get rid of all the nostalgia as soon as possible. I had to walk gracefully with every step, and I wanted everyone to see my calm and fearless posture when facing my old love. Chloe was standing beside the three-tiered cake stand. With the spotlight shining down on her, she was like the princess and the pea, looking so delicate that there was no trace of the hardships she had suffered before. I knew it was the effect of the props. I had heard their conversations. As a reward for the sudden progress in the relationship between Jewel and Zachary, she exchanged it with the system for a prop called Grace Aura. I had practiced my demeanor for over 10 years, yet Chloe got it with just one prop. I was unwilling to accept it, but I wouldn't admit defeat. Under everyone's gaze, Chloe and I were holding the same cake knives, ready to cut the cake. In the lively atmosphere of singing and dancing, I heard Chloe's voice. System. It's now. Use the prop to confuse. Disturb Jewel's sight and make the knife in her hand cut towards my hand. Oh, don't forget to reduce my pain perception. I suddenly stopped the movement of my hand, and cold sweat covered my back in an instant. The props could actually affect others. What's wrong? Chloe's sweet voice with concern rang in my ear. I knew that my sudden pause would surely draw everyone's attention. Maybe Zachary and the others were now extremely nervous, guessing whether I was going to embarrass Chloe. But I didn't dare to move. In my sight was the soft and sweet cake, but this cut might bring blood. Host. Why isn't she moving? This prop is only effective for 3 minutes. Hurry up and make her cut. Don't waste it. The system's anxious voice came, and instantly it was like a reassuring pill for me. I got an idea. I raised my head and smiled at Chloe. Look at my memory. I was so happy that I forgot to say the blessing before cutting the cake. Sister. I stared into Chloe's eyes and caught the panic in them. I was like a bloodthirsty animal. Savoring the praise. Panic made me feel a sense of pleasure, and my voice also took on a bit of excitement. We were born on the same day, month, and year. I think this is the fate bestowed upon us by heaven. Thank you for giving me one more family member. Happy birthday. I'm also very happy, sister. Let's cut the cake quickly. Chloe was getting a bit impatient. Don't rush. I still have something to say. I tightly held the cake knife. My arm was so tense from excessive force that it felt sore. I turned my body slightly, symbolically looked around at the relatives around us, adjusted to the most beautiful angle that the media could capture, and consumed Chloe's patience in a grateful tone. Dad, Mom, a lot of things have happened in our family recently. But today, our family can gather here, and I'm very happy. I hope that our family can be as happy as we are now every year in the future. Why don't we cut this cake together? Okay. Okay. Jewel, we're so pleased to hear you say that. Both you and Chloe are our good daughters. Mom and Dad walked forward and gave Chloe and me a light hug. My brother stood in the middle and held the cake knife in Chloe's hand together with Dad, and Mom held my hand. Accompanied by the system's wailing that the time was up, the champagne tower was poured, and the ribbons exploded behind us. I smiled and cut the cake with everyone. After cutting the cake, I walked out of the joyous atmosphere and only then found that my palms were all sweaty. I had underestimated the power of the system. It was almost like a god to be able to do this. This word was like a red-hot stone, bouncing around in my mind. I am the god who manipulates you guys. The familiar childish voice didn't have its usual innocent tone but was full of arrogance. It didn't ring in my ear but in my mind. It was like a fish that had slipped through the net emerging from my memory. In an instant, it made my hair stand on end. Why did this sentence appear? And the previous memories about the system and the host, did they belong to me? Why didn't I have any impression of them before? Who said this sentence to me? Was it the system? I rummaged through all my memories up to now, trying to find a clue, but couldn't recall anything extra. I could only vaguely feel that something was floating in my heart like a layer of fog. As long as I blew away this fog, I could see clearly, but I couldn't get close. The unknown is always the scariest. The luxurious banquet scene in front of me suddenly became unreal at this moment. I felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave and suddenly realized that it seemed like there was a hand hovering over everyone's heads. I was extremely frightened and wished I could escape from this creepy outsider immediately, but I didn't dare to act rashly. I listened carefully to every conversation between her and the system, chewing on them repeatedly, hoping to find another red-hot stone. Damn Jewel. She made me waste a prop for nothing. System, are there any props that can get rid of her directly? Yes, there is. The high-level prop Desire Goo. Desire Goo? What's that? It sounds similar to the desire I exchanged. They're different. Desire is used on the host to increase the host's charm value towards the opposite sex. Desire Goo is specifically used to deal with those who get in the host's way. However, the exchange points for this prop are relatively high, and certain usage conditions are required. The host can't use it for now. What the heck? Why tell me if I can't use it? You're just teasing me. Little system, you've become bad. Host, don't be impatient. The focus of our task is still on the target of the Gonglu. Only by obtaining enough points from the target of the Gonglu can the host get more props. Oh, the host's accumulated points are currently 4,800. Do you want to see what new props can be exchanged? I don't know if it's a psychological effect, but now when I listen to the system's voice again, it seems like a demon in the guise of a child, inducing the person it has chosen to open Pandora's box. Chloe was sitting on the off-white sofa, seemingly listening to Zachary chatting with others beside her, but if you looked closely, you would find that her eyes were vacant, fixed on a certain point in the void. I guessed that she was probably looking at the props shown to her by the system. Just hearing the names of these props made me feel sick. Things like, Nine-Turn Corridor, Enchanting Bone and Fragrant Milk, they were disgusting just to hear. The system was carefully introducing how these props could make men go crazy, become addicted, and never forget. Chloe was imagining in an ambiguous tone what crazy reactions Zachary would have for each prop. It sounded like she was planning to take a step further with Zachary at today's banquet. Uncontrollably, an image of Zachary and Chloe entwined passionately also emerged in my mind. That picture was so real that it seemed as if I had witnessed it thousands of times. I forced myself not to think about these things and concentrated on analyzing every word the system said. This system had many props. The props were used to help outsiders win over men or get rid of those who were in their way. And the props needed points to be exchanged, and the points were the rewards obtained by winning over men. It was simply a closed loop. The core points all revolved around winning over the designated men. Outsiders could obtain things like beauty and the pursuit of men through this circular loop. Then what could the system get? The exchange points? So it had been always actively persuading this outsider to earn points and then exchange for props. What were these points used for? Energy conversion. I suddenly thought of a possibility. Just like people need to eat to live and cars need fuel to run. Suppose this system was like an electronic pet. It definitely needed energy to start up and keep running. The points were very likely to be this energy, because it was the only thing it desired that was known so far. My heart started beating faster because of this guess, like a thief who had just stolen jewels, both nervous and afraid of being discovered. If my guess was correct, then if I stopped this outsider from continuing to obtain points, could I influence the system? This outsider planned to completely win over Zachary tonight. It was mentioned when the system showed the props. As long as she succeeded in having intimate contact with Zachary, it would mean that she had successfully won him over. After that, she wouldn't need to bother to increase the favorability anymore. She could just obtain a small number of points through each close contact and accumulate them according to the number of intimate contacts. If I substituted it into my previous speculation, then wouldn't Zachary be equivalent to a charging pile for the system? I must stop this. This system was definitely not a good thing. If I didn't find a way to get rid of them, they would surely not let me off in the future. I definitely couldn't let these two have a chance to be alone tonight, but Zachary now regarded me as a fierce beast. I could only start from Chloe's side. To prevent her from coming up with any more ways to frame me, I couldn't be alone with Chloe. I had to find another person. I quickly went through all the people present that I could think of and finally settled on my brother. Having chosen the person, the next thing was to find a good excuse. After thinking for a moment, I got an idea. I walked to a place not far from my brother who was chatting with others. When they finished the topic they were talking about, I inserted my voice at the right time and called my brother over. "What's the matter, Jewel?" My brother's expression was very gentle. I guessed it was because he was satisfied with my performance today. Under Chloe's repeated framings in the past, everyone thought that I hated Chloe very much and always opposed her everywhere. My brother had been having a headache about this and had tried every means to mediate, hoping that I could get along peacefully with Chloe. Now seeing the harmony of us cutting the cake hand in hand, he was naturally in a good mood. I put on the coquettish posture that I used to have in front of my brother, as if we were still the closest siblings and those barriers had never happened. "Brother, today is Chloe's first birthday in our family, and it's rare that everyone is so happy. After the banquet is over, let's go to the Starfall garden to play." My brother's expression was surprised for a moment. "You want to take Chloe to the Starfall garden?" "Yeah, Chloe is my sister now, and of course I also want to share all the good things with her." I smiled brightly. For a moment, I felt really sad. Although I would maintain a good image outside, I was always that pampered little girl in front of my family, but now I also put on a mask in front of them. I naturally understood why my brother was so surprised, because only he knew best what the Falling Star Garden meant to me. I named the Falling Star Garden. It was originally just a small cottage in the deep mountains. One time when my brother went camping with his friends, he found that the starry sky there was as beautiful as the Milky Way within reach. To give me a surprise, my brother spent a lot of money to buy a piece of wasteland in the mountains and built a small cottage, just like the mysterious forest in Grimm's fairy tales. Since then, on every birthday, my brother would take me to that cottage and we would spend the warm time belonging to our brother and sister. Even Zachary didn't know that place, because it was our secret base shared only by my brother and me. Now, in order to find the most suitable and appropriate excuse, I offered up this secret with my own hands. But it didn't matter anymore. When my brother repeatedly cast disappointed looks at me because of Chloe, it was just an ordinary house. "Jewel, I'm really glad that you can think like this. You and Chloe are both my good sisters. Forget those unpleasant things in the past. Let's be a good family in the future." His words stabbed like needles. I knew that only by showing an attitude of accepting Chloe could I win back the friendship of my former relatives. I had known this for a long time, but every time the pain of being stabbed by this realization was as fresh as the first time. But it didn't matter. I would turn all the pain into the hair tied to the beam and the awl on the chair. I told my brother that I hoped only the three of us, brother and sisters, could go there and not take Zachary with us. From now on, this would be our common utopia for the three of us. My brother agreed without hesitation and took me to find Chloe. She was sitting with Zachary and whispering sweet nothings to him, which was really sickeningly sweet. In front of Chloe, I gently nudged my brother with my elbow and winked at him before saying to Chloe, "Sister, brother has something to tell you." I played the part of an intimate family member to the fullest. Not knowing what was going on, Chloe followed my brother to the other side to talk, and for a while, only Zachary and I were left, one sitting and one standing. Zachary's eyes lingered on Chloe's back for quite a while before he turned to look at me. Like a suddenly frozen river, he examined me with a bone-chilling coldness. After a long while, he said, "You've changed a lot." I didn't look at him but just watched the two chatting with a smile from a distance. Anyone who saw it would think that I had truly and sincerely accepted Chloe. "I thought you would never accept Chloe. Today, the Jewel family held a big birthday banquet for Chloe but ignored you, who is also the birthday star. Given your personality, although you would attend gracefully, you wouldn't be so intimate with Chloe." Seeing that I didn't speak, Zachary went on talking by himself. "Jewel, what on earth are you planning?" The way he looked as if facing a formidable enemy suddenly made me feel a sense of pleasure. I glanced at him out of the corner of my eye and said, "Zachary, are you happy with Chloe?" "Of course I'm happy." When mentioning Chloe, Zachary's tone became gentle. Every day with her is very happy for me. Is that so? Then those 20 years with me must have been really hard for you. I found it ridiculous. It's ridiculous that the man I had been infatuated with for so many years was so blinded by this outsider. It's ridiculous that I had been so reluctant to give up and tried to win him back before. I really lost all my dignity. Then congratulations to you too. Congratulations that the woman you love deeply just treats you as a plaything. Congratulations that the woman you love deeply has been eyeing other men's bodies all the time, that there's more good fortune waiting for you in the future. Seeing that my brother had finished talking with Chloe and was walking over, I left Zachary behind and went forward, eagerly urging them to set off earlier. All the way, Chloe's complaints to the system about missing good opportunities tonight sounded like a symphony in my ears, which made me feel even better. The angrier Chloe was, the happier I was. Even when we arrived at the Falling Star Garden and I heard Chloe telling the system that I used to be so favored in the Jewel family, but now I was like unwanted leftovers. I wasn't angry. Because I could sense the envy in her voice. I think I might be a bit twisted in my mind. Even the slightest smell of blood from Chloe could excite me. Don't worry. If you want to send me to hell, I'll drag you down with me even if I have to bite with my broken hands and feet. On the way, my brother had already ordered people to redecorate this place. The whole garden was filled with sunflowers that Chloe liked, and the ribbons and balloons all over the room were in the pink-purple color that Chloe liked. My brother had always been so careful and considerate. It was as if you were the most precious princess in the world, and he was willing to present all the beauty of the world to you. In the past 20 years, I had been growing up nourished by his love for a full 20 years. So even if my relationship with him had reached a point where it was hard to mend, I wouldn't stand by and watch him become a plaything. Facing all these thoughtful arrangements, Chloe was a bit absent-minded. My brother thought she was tired from the long journey, but I knew clearly that she was still thinking about the plan for tonight. When I heard her discussing with the system whether to send a message to Zachary quietly and ask him to come over too, so that the two of them could have a special charm in the embrace of the deep mountains under the starry sky, I asked my brother in front of her, since we have this rare opportunity, why don't we just spread quilts and sleep together in the living room tonight? When Mom and Dad were not at home in the past, brother always slept on the floor in my room to chat with me and lull me to sleep. Chloe hasn't been here for these years, and we left her a lot of regrets. We should make up for them properly. Besides, she just came back not long ago, and there are many things we don't know about each other. It's just right for us to have a heart-to-heart talk. That's a great idea. My brother's eyes lit up. When I heard Chloe's angry cursing voice, I almost couldn't help laughing out loud. She usually showed an attached posture in front of my brother as if a lost lamb had found its home, so of course she wouldn't easily refuse my brother's request. However, my good mood was broken in just a moment because I heard the system's notification. Host, the favorability of the 攻略对象. I'm not sure what the specific Chinese term means here, assuming it's the target of the strategy. Truant towards you has just increased by 3 points and is now 73%. Zachary's favorability towards the host is now 100%. We have the opportunity to win him over at any time. Now let's take this opportunity to work on increasing Truant's favorability. My smile faded a little. I could only comfort myself in my heart. It doesn't matter. It's only 73%, so there's still a chance. What matters most now is to verify my conjecture. The system is my biggest obstacle. Only by understanding the weaknesses of the system clearly can I deal with them better. You can't fell a big tree with just one axe. Seeing Chloe eagerly going to help my brother tidy up the bedding, I originally wanted to go and help too, but suddenly remembered that there was still something in this house. Since I had already given up this Eden, I shouldn't leave that thing here anymore. I made an excuse to go out to the garden to get some fresh air, avoided the two of them, and found the cherry tree in the yard by myself. This tree was planted by my brother and me with our own hands when I was 15 years old and when my brother took me there for the first time. Because I liked cherry blossoms, my brother specially airshipped a cherry tree sapling from Japan. When we were not here, there were always people taking care of it. There was a box buried under this tree. I secretly buried it here by myself later without telling my brother. The box wasn't buried deep. I dug it out with a small garden spade after a few tries. It was a small brown calfskin box, about the size of a palm, wrapped in plastic paper. I bought this small calfskin box when I was 10 years old and spending the summer vacation in London with my brother. At that time, my brother left the nanny behind and took me out to play alone. In the window of a store, I saw the small calfskin box. It was half open at that time, and there was a very delicate crystal figurine inside. I fell in love with it at first sight. My brother wanted to buy it for me, but at that moment, we found that our wallet and mobile phone had been stolen without our knowing. I was thinking of just forgetting it and buying it next time. But the shop owner said it was a unique antique, the only one of its kind. My brother was afraid that someone else would get it first, so he quickly asked the shop owner to borrow the phone and wanted the nanny to bring money to us, but no one answered. At that time, my brother was only 13 years old, and the half-grown child was so anxious that he thought for a while and then took off the watch on his wrist and mortgaged it to the shop owner. That was my brother's favorite watch. Although later the nanny took us to redeem the watch back. But I would always remember that my brother held this box and told me, "Jewel, brother will buy you anything you like. If you're happy, brother will be happy." His eyes were so bright. Every time I thought of it later, I would feel as if I was wrapped in melted chocolate. So when I first learned Chloe's true identity and saw the tentative look in my brother's eyes for Chloe, it pierced through my heart. At that time, I only needed a caring smile to open my arms. The memories that came back were as dense as a fishing net, dragging me into the water. I forced myself not to think about it and quickly opened the box and took out a pair of necklaces. The necklaces were thin silver chains with pendants. One pendant was a little princess in a dress, with "Truett's Princess Sister" engraved on the back. The other was a little prince in a tailcoat, with "Jewel's Prince Brother" engraved on the back. I made them by myself when I was 16 years old, with a kind of naivety unique in front of my family. At that time, I specially learned from someone for a whole winter how to melt silver, pour molds, and polish. I hurt several fingers and wasted several pieces of silver before I finally made them. I put them into this precious little box, thinking that I would give them to my brother on my 20th birthday. In other families, people become adults at the age of 18, but I became an adult at 20. Because mom and dad said they hoped I could be a child for a few more years. But now, I think no one would care about this matter anymore. I put the necklace in my pocket, buried the small box back, and tidied up my clothes before getting ready to go back. After walking 2 steps, I hesitated for a moment and then turned back to the cherry tree. I took out the necklace from my pocket. The branches of the cherry tree hung down gently, like a half-open embrace, half covering my body. I carefully picked up the one with the princess pendant, then put it down again. After being silent for a long time, I grasped the prince's necklace and put it on gently. When the clasp didn't fasten on the first try, I realized that I didn't know when I had stopped breathing and my hands were shaking all the time. Like a thief. It's been 4 months since Chloe appeared in my life, and I haven't shed a single tear. I'm Jewel, the most precious jewel in this world. They want to make me lose my luster, but I will shine brightly instead. I won't cry, and I don't want to hide in the shadow of the big tree like this, crying so hard that my throat spasms yet not daring to sob out loud. I trembled as I fumbled with my necklace, trying to fasten it again and again. I don't know how many times I tried. Click. The clasp of the necklace closed, but something in my mind seemed to crack open and pour out overwhelmingly. I remembered. I remembered everything. I'm Jewel, yet I'm not. I'm a tenche de灵魂 that has been destroyed and rebuilt time and time again. I'm a supporting character in the small world in the system's eyes. I lived a smooth life for 20 years as the daughter of the Jewel family. I had all the wonderful things until it all came to an abrupt end at the age of 20. Because Chloe showed up. She's Chloe, yet she isn't. She's just a container, carrying the souls of outsiders one after another. She will take away everything from me, shredding my happiness bit by bit in front of me like a cat playing with a mouse, driving me mad and making me jealous. She wants to watch me struggle to understand why life has suddenly become like a train running off the rails. She wants to watch me try my best to hold back this train, hitting my head against the wall again and again under the name of Chloe until I'm bleeding. Until I lose my pride and self-esteem, with my heart broken on a drunken night, and then be taken away by several men and dragged into a real nightmare. And I will also sink into that nightmare, becoming a pitiful creature that only knows to seek pleasure at men's feet. I will die on a night when I'm begging like an animal in front of a dozen men at the age of 22. Then I will wake up on that stormy night when I opened my eyes and wailed for the first time, losing all my memories. I don't know how many cycles I've gone through. Last time, on the night when I died, I became a wandering spirit. I watched my own body, covered with bruises and filthy excrement, being pushed into the garbage disposal in the landfill, turning into bloody mud without even a piece of cloth to cover my shame. It was like a muddled fool suddenly being hit on the top of the head. I couldn't believe that the person in my memory who was willing to become a toy was me. Obviously, I was already dead, but I felt so cold. I wandered in this landfill for I don't know how long. I thought maybe I became an earthbound spirit because I died here. I originally thought that I would gradually dissipate in this dirty place. But then Chloe showed up. She came to this place with Zachary in a gorgeous red sports car as bright as fire. Zachary, the man who wouldn't even reach out to pick up a handkerchief that had fallen on the ground. In this disgusting place, he was impatiently venting his desires like a dog. That was the first time I heard the system's voice. It appeared after the two of them had sex. I saw Chloe shyly snuggling in Zachary's arms, smiling like the morning dew. But in her heart, she was saying the most vicious words to the system. System, that Jewel died right here, hee hee. I don't know if her ghost saw how Zachary was just now. I don't know if she was so angry that she wanted to die or if she wished she could join in too. After all, she's just a slut who only cares about men. Host, there are no ghosts in this world. She's already dead. The host is getting worse and worse. So she wasn't Chloe. She was a soul from another world, coming here to conquer. So I became like this because they planted the desire goo in me when I was the most vulnerable and sad. The system lures the outsiders, using props exchanged with a large number of points to watch me, the haughty and annoying person, turn into the most pitiful state. At that time, I couldn't figure out why this outsider could be so vicious. Later, I gradually understood that because in their hearts, they think they are above us. It's like God looking down on the lives beneath his feet. Those lives are as light as dust. Who would care about a speck of dust? Since that day, my soul has been following Chloe all the time. They seemed unable to sense me, but I gradually saw their true faces. It's like in a game, all of us are NPCs in the game. The outsiders are like players coming to clear the levels one by one, and with the help of the system, which is like a cheat, they are having a great time. My childhood sweetheart Zachary, the heir of the Zachary family, is the #1 high-quality target to conquer. My brother Truett, the eldest young master of the Jewel family, is the #2 high-quality target to conquer. There are also #3, #4, #5, and without exception, they are all men at the top of the pyramid. The outsiders in Chloe's body will approach each of them, increase their favorability with the help of the system, and then exchange the favorability points for props. If the demeanor isn't elegant enough, exchange for the grace aura. If the appearance isn't beautiful enough, exchange for the beauty filter. If the voice isn't pleasant enough, exchange for the silver bell melody. If you don't know about the 4 arts of the Chinese scholar, Qin, Qi, Shu, Hua, exchange for the master's memory. If the body isn't alluring enough, exchange for the enchanting bone and fragrant milk. As long as the system is there, she can become the perfect goddess in every man's heart. Once the favorability is maxed out, she can have the first harmonious encounter with the man. After that, these men will become completely dominated puppets like me. They will see nothing but this outsider in their eyes. I originally thought that they were also affected by the props to become like this, but gradually I found out that it wasn't the case. They are more like the default settings of the game. Later, I understood that it was probably the system's doing, because in this way, men can become charging piles, continuously providing points for the outsiders, and the points can continuously supply the system. In the end, these men will surround the outsiders like hungry wild dogs smelling meat. There is no ethics, no pride or dignity, and they are willing to share the same love. I also saw Zachary and my brother circling around the outsider. No, they aren't Zachary nor are they my brother. They are all Chloe's puppets.as for me, I'm just a stone that gets in their way. Before they came to this world, I was Zachary's fiancée, I was Truett's most beloved sister, and I was the apple of the Jewel family's eye. If they want to take my place, they must drive me away. But how could I be willing to be replaced willingly? I will struggle and resist, but that's exactly what they want. Just simply replacing me won't do. That can't erase the traces of my existence. What they want is to become the one and only in everyone's heart. So they want me to be broken, to go mad, to change from a red rose to a mosquito bloodstain. They want all the once beautiful memories in everyone's hearts to become scars that Truett will feel disgusted with when he thinks of them. They won't think they are wrong because they consider themselves superior to me. The superior ones won't care about the joys and sorrows of the inferior ones. Even if the superior ones unleash their wrath, the inferior ones should regard it as a kind of blessing. Any dissatisfaction is being ungrateful, and it's deserved to be beaten to death with random sticks. I pieced together the story after I left from the few words I got over a long period of time. Chloe is a noble lady adored by thousands of people. At the engagement banquet with Zachary, she was half-heartedly and half-reluctantly hugged tightly by her adoptive brother Truett. She racked her brains to seduce Truett for a year and a half. Finally, with the help of the prop love potion, she achieved her long-cherished wish. But then she pretended to be in pain as she toshem between the two men, keeping both of them at arm's length, driving these two men crazy for her until they finally compromised and were willing to share her as long as she didn't leave. My parents, who were well-educated and polite, were heartbroken when they found out about this. But this also became a heart-wrenching plot that Chloe used to manipulate the men. In the end, my parents went overseas and never came back. And my name has become that of a missing woman who has long been forgotten in everyone's world. No one even knows that I died long ago. Well, that's okay. At least for the last memory of me, I still looked like a human being. I don't know how many years have passed. My consciousness has become very mohu. Most of the time, I'm in a daze, and only occasionally will I be sober. When I heard a sound and opened my eyes again, I was in the Starfall Garden. But now it's called the Star-Picking Terrace, the place where Chloe and Truett like to hang out the most. Probably tired of the scenery here, Chloe had people push the garden down and rebuild it. When they were pushing down the cherry tree, a box was exposed. It took me a while to recognize what that box was. Chloe opened the box, took out the two necklaces, and read the names on the necklaces in a drawn-out voice, with a strange smile on her face. My already mohu memories suddenly became vivid. I saw Chloe waving the necklaces in front of Truett, pouting and acting coquettish. Prince brother of Jewel, princess sister of Truett, you two have such a good relationship. Didn't she like Zachary? Does she have feelings for you too? Humph, I'm not happy. I saw Truett smiling dotingly and pinching Chloe's face, saying, why mention her? I didn't even know there were these two necklaces. I'll have someone throw them away later. Don't be jealous. It's so strange. I thought ghosts wouldn't feel pain. My soul suddenly dispersed at that moment. It's been 3 days since I remembered everything. In these 3 days, I used being sick as an excuse and stayed indoors with the door closed. The thick curtains blocked the sunlight in the room and also cut off my vitality. I felt an unprecedented sense of defeat. I thought I had already witnessed the magic of the system, but I never expected that its power was beyond my imagination. All of us are like pieces on its chessboard. I thought their appearance was an accident in my life. But I didn't expect that it would be the norm in my life. I don't know what to do, but I can't do nothing because I already know what the consequence of sitting and waiting for death is. I don't want to recall those painful and humiliating days and nights, nor do I want to experience them again. I never thought that just living an ordinary life as an ordinary person would become a luxury. There was a knock on the door, and I wearily closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. The thick wool carpet muffled the sound of footsteps, but I could feel the gaze falling on me. I don't know who it is. I just feel that someone has been watching me for a long time. System, why did you ask me to come and see Jewel? Is there something wrong with her? I'm going out with Zachary this afternoon. A few days ago in the Starfall Garden, I sensed energy fluctuations on Jewel. I'm a bit worried and came to take a look. Energy fluctuations? What's that? Actually, it's not a big deal. After all, we're not from this small world. We forcibly entered this world. When we get close to the main characters in the small world, sometimes it will cause some energy fluctuations in the small world. I just scanned her and there was nothing abnormal. I see. Then will these things affect me in doing the tasks? Affect? Of course not. Host, please don't worry. With me here, nothing can affect you. Well, since there's no problem with the inspection, let's go. Didn't the host make an appointment with Zachary? Try hard to win him over today. The sound of the door closing rang out, and the room was quiet for quite a while. Only then did I dare to open my eyes. I was covered in cold sweat. I am the god who manipulates you. The contemptuous and arrogant tone of the system just now reminded me of this sentence that had rung in my mind before. However, I couldn't remember hearing the system say this sentence no matter how hard I searched through my memories of my past life. But this sentence was so real, as if it were engraved on my soul. Every word, filled with disdain and arrogance, made my whole body tingle. I can't go on like this. Otherwise, I'll go crazy before they drive me mad. I sat up. Having lain in bed for a few days, my hands and feet were weak. After sitting by the bed for a moment, I walked to the balcony, opened the curtain and pushed the window open. The suddenly bright light made me squint my eyes involuntarily. The fresh air outside the window rushed in. I slowly exhaled the 压抑的浊气. I'm not sure of the exact English equivalent for this phrase. Maybe something like stifled, gloomy air, or oppressive stale air. The wind blowing in carried the fragrance of the garden, and the sunlight, with its long-lost warmth, dispelled the gloomy coldness from another world. It's so good to be alive that I felt like crying. I really want to live, even if it's just to bask in the sun every day. A sudden impulse rose within me. Escape. Escape far away. Maybe I can still survive by changing my name and hiding my identity. Like a dam bursting, in an instant, I was completely engulfed by this sudden impulse. I couldn't wait to jump out of the window and run as far as I could. But in just a moment, this thought was blown away by the wind. If I escaped this time, what about the next time? And the time after that? I looked around and it seemed that the sky and the earth had turned into a huge cage that tightly trapped me. Voices came from the garden. It was my brother seeing Chloe off. Chloe's cheerful and lively posture, chattering away, was like a bird on a branch full of vitality as it jumped in the sunlight. I heard the system's notification. True, its favorability towards the host has increased by 2 points and is now 81%. Please keep up the good work, host. I watched quietly for quite a while until the figures of the two disappeared from my sight. Something also seemed to be stripped away from my body along with their departure. I closed the window, found an eyebrow shaper from the dressing table, held it and went to the bathroom. The small blade was as thin as a piece of paper and fell as gently as a feather, yet it was extremely sharp. I cut my inner arm 7 or 8 times before I stopped, then casually grabbed a towel and pressed it on the cuts. The soft towel was like a baby's mouth, sucking the blood in my body until the wound stopped bleeding freely before it reluctantly let go. I cut myself again near the wounds. This time, I didn't care about the flowing blood. I wiped it casually a few times and changed into a long-sleeved black top. I crumpled up the blood-stained towel and stuffed it into my handbag, then pulled out the blood-stained corner and clipped it in the zipper. From a distance, it looked as if the black bag had stuck out a small tongue. I tidied myself up, put on my sunglasses and left the bedroom in a hurry. But I happened to meet my brother, who had just seen Chloe off and returned to the living room. Jewel? Aren't you feeling unwell? Why are you out? Where are you going? I lowered my head in a flustered manner to hide my expression, half covered my handbag in a way that seemed to hide something, and replied with a voice that was trying to sound calm but still had traces of crying. Nothing. I have something to go out for. After doing all this, I lowered my head and walked around my brother and ran outside. I heard my brother calling me from behind and the sound of his footsteps. I tightly held my uninjured arm in front of my chest, and my injured arm inadvertently hung behind me, like a flower waiting to be picked. The next second, this flower was grasped by someone, and the delicate stem was squeezed out bright red juice. Hiss, I trembled all over but immediately froze and didn't dare to move again. The wet feeling seeped through the thin and absorbent pure cotton fabric. What's wrong with you? What happened to your arm? My brother immediately let go of me, and I could hear the worry in his voice. I looked up at him for a moment and then quickly turned my head away, taking advantage of the movement of turning my body. I made sure that the corner of the towel exposed in my bag completely came into his sight. Nothing. I have something to go out for. Nothing? Are you injured? What's in your bag? He tried to approach me, but I kept backing away, like a kite with its string being pulled. Really, it's nothing. I'll go out first. I was like Cinderella running away from the ball, hurriedly shaking off the prince's entanglement and finding the carriage that would take me away. In the rearview mirror, my brother's figure gradually became blurred. Although my arm holding the steering wheel hurt, I started to laugh. Those outsiders thought I was just a spoiled fool and thought that I really didn't understand those devious means, but don't forget that in high society, I was used to seeing those people who tried every means to squeeze in. How could I not understand? I just didn't want to show weakness. Even if my heart hurt so much that it felt like bleeding, I would still hold my head high and never shed a single tear. Even if I couldn't accept being abandoned in my heart, I wouldn't lie on the ground and beg pitifully. Even when pushed to the extreme, I would only question them hoarsely. Even in this life, even though I already knew that something was wrong with Chloe, I still preferred to maintain my dignity and struggle hard, looking for Chloe's weaknesses, instead of crying and pouring out my pain in my heart. But now I'm different. I'm an evil spirit crawling out of hell. As long as I can kill my enemies, I don't care about anything. I drove all the way and randomly found a small clinic by the roadside to have my wounds dressed. Then I went to several psychological clinics. I didn't see a doctor but just asked for business cards. In the car, I used a signature pen to scratch out the addresses and phone numbers on each business card. The hideous marks were full of the owner's entanglement. I put the stack of business cards into my bag and drove home. As soon as I entered the door, the nanny came up to me. I ignored her and stood in the living room in a daze for quite a while before mechanically taking off my bag and handing it to the nanny, asking her to throw it away. After doing all this, I slowly walked back to my room. Closing the door, I let out a long sigh of relief. I was gambling, betting on my understanding of my brother. After he noticed something was wrong with me, he would definitely ask the nanny at home what had happened and tell the nanny to keep an eye on my movements. This bag and my appearance just now, the nanny would surely tell my brother. The bloodstains on the white lining of the bag, a stack of business cards of psychologists with the addresses and phone numbers scratched out. I took the initiative to suggest going to the Falling Star Garden, but then I was sick in bed for several days as soon as I came back. During this period when I suddenly encountered changes but didn't make a fuss or ask questions and was obedient and well behaved. I put down my pride of the past 20 years at this moment. I wanted them all to know my pain and my forbearance. I can't be a supporting role in this play anymore. I must compete with Chloe. Only by standing in the spotlight first can I have the zigua. I'm not sure of the exact English equivalent here, maybe something like qualification or right, to tell everyone how bad the other light is. When my brother brought a new friend and invited me to have coffee, I knew that the fish had taken the bait. The new friend was a woman in her 30s. She had an ordinary appearance but exuded an air of 亲和力. I'm not sure of the exact English equivalent here, maybe something like affability or geniality. My brother made an excuse to leave, leaving time for the two of us to be alone. I had been browsing psychology books and videos day and night these days just for this moment. In front of the psychologist disguised as an ordinary person that my brother had found, I played the role of a depression patient who clearly had serious psychological problems but refused to face them and was only thinking about my family. At dusk on the day after this conversation, I was alone in the garden when my brother came with a glass of milk and some desserts. "Jewel, have you been a bit unhappy lately? You can tell me if there's anything on your mind." Facing my brother's probing gaze, I smiled as usual. I propped my elbow on the table and reached out for the milk, and during the movement, a piece of my sleeve was pulled down, revealing 2 knife cuts that still smelled fresh. "Jewel." This time when he grabbed my hand again, I didn't escape. "Jewel, you? What are you doing? What on earth is going on?" He looked very distressed, and his voice was urgent, but I could never forget that sentence, "Why mention her?" I lowered my eyes and saw a pale and sad reflection on the glass table. At this moment, my overflowing sadness was real. My brother began to comfort me in a low voice, trying to get me to open up. I had already thought about what to say and how to act for every sentence and every gesture, but when I opened my mouth, what came out was something different. "Brother, when you first learned Chloe's true identity, I could understand that you couldn't face it for a while, but why did you guard against me so much?" Embarrassment flashed across his face, followed by silence. After a while, he looked at me with a complicated look and said, "You know, at that time, you didn't like Chloe very much and opposed her everywhere. And then such a thing happened suddenly. I was worried that you couldn't accept it and would have conflicts with her. Brother, we grew up together. Don't you know me? Have you ever seen me target someone for no reason? I opposed her back then because of Zachary. You know my feelings for Zachary. She stole my love. Shouldn't I have emotions?" My voice became more and more urgent, and I felt as if I had gone back to that junkyard in a trance. When it rained, the raindrops falling on the tin roof would make a dense sound like stamping feet. "You should know that what I value most is family. Since Chloe has become a member of our family, and since I know that she took my marriage contract and that she and Zachary are already together, I'm not an unreasonable person. As long as she doesn't bully me, I won't hurt her. Were the past 20 years all fake? Aren't you the one who always understood me best? Why is it like this, Jewel?" He hesitated and couldn't say a word, as if he was thinking but couldn't figure it out. His face suddenly seemed to overlap in my sight. Eager, crazy, indifferent, and finally it condensed into a strange face, a face that had become strange since Chloe showed up. "You were only thinking about Chloe's feelings at that time." My intense emotions subsided. In fact, thinking rationally, at that time, my brother had already known Chloe for a while and had developed a great deal of affection for her under her pursuit. At this time, when he suddenly learned that this girl, whom he had a good impression of and admired very much, was his sister who had been separated from him for many years and had been suffering outside all along, how could he hold back his surging feelings of pity? However, I couldn't understand why everything left me overnight. That I hadn't done anything wrong, but I didn't even get a word of comfort. I was immersed in the quagmire of emotions and was guided by the outsider to plunge into a dead end. Perhaps I should have been more rational at the beginning, but how can feelings be measured by rationality? Feelings are like water and fire, light and darkness, all contradictions tangled together, boiled until thick and impossible to untangle. "Jewel, you also know that Chloe has suffered too much over the years." "Brother, really?" My brother began to explain to me. I quietly looked at him for a while, and the role that I had rehearsed long ago climbed onto my body bit by bit again. I remembered the lines that I was supposed to say. I pinched my palm and suddenly started to cry, bringing this play back on track. I told him that I didn't resent him. I just loved them too much. I deeply loved my family members, but everyone suddenly left me. I had nightmares every night, dreaming of being abandoned. I could only try my best to please Chloe, hoping that they would pay more attention to me. The half-truth and half-false heartfelt words were mixed together. I sang this play with tears and heartbreak. The blood marks on my arms were like burning fire marks, burning along my arms and onto my brother, making him restless. "Jewel, I'm sorry. It's all Brother's fault. Brother has neglected you." When he hugged me in his arms and choked up beside my ear, I knew that this play, which bet on the feelings of 20 years, had opened perfectly. From this day on, my brother's care for me reached its peak, even more than before Chloe showed up. It seemed that we had gone back to our childhood. I stuck to my brother all the time. He accompanied me to take a walk by the seaside, took me to the amusement park from my childhood, and accompanied me to make cakes. When Chloe saw that my brother was occupied by me all day long and wanted to join in, my brother, who had been repeatedly warned by the psychologist, was afraid that she would stimulate me and found reasons to refuse her. Chloe, who was disappointed, ignored the systems urging her to quickly increase the favorability and turned around and went into Zachary's arms. I knew that the two of them had just had their first in-depth interaction a few days ago. Now was the time when they were as sweet as honey and also the time when the pursuit of my brother was the most lax. This was the opportunity one had been waiting for. Otherwise, if she spent a few more efforts, my brother, whose guilt was aroused by past feelings, didn't know how long he could hold on. My brother's current favorability towards the outsider was 81%. As I already knew everything about the pursuit, I was very clear that if this pursuit degree was placed on other men, it would mean that he liked and cared about them very much. But it was different when it came to my brother. He himself had a certain closeness to the word sister. This level of favorability for him was still at the level where he liked her without realizing it. Everything could still be stopped in time. Last time when my brother was being pursued, the outsider had always concealed the fact that she had already had an intimate relationship with Zachary. When she mentioned Zachary to my brother, she always showed an innocent liking for him. Based on this, she seduced my brother without any scruples. I don't know whether the system had taught these outsiders something or the system just liked to choose hosts of the same type. Both the previous outsider and the current one were the same. They always showed a self-reliant, strong, and stubborn appearance outside, but in front of men, they became innocent little rabbits who didn't know much about the world. Especially in front of my brother, under the cover of their relationship, they made ambiguous moves without any restraint. After taking a bath, she only wore a short bathrobe, went to my brother with moisture all over her body, acted coquettishly, and asked him to warm the milk, and then held the milk cup, bit the straw, and talked to my brother. The carnal desire was almost overflowing, but she stared with innocent eyes, as if she was just naive and ignorant. When watching horror movies together, she screamed and burrowed into my brother's arms, grasped the collars on both sides of my brother's shoulders with both hands, pressed her soft body tightly against my brother's arms like she had no bones and trembled, and sighed softly beside his ear with her sweet voice, saying, "Fortunately you're here." Ambiguity filled every gap, yet it was also faint, as if it was just an innocent accident. Such scenes gradually devoured my brother's heart. He began to waver between love and morality. Love grew in every ambiguous teasing moment, and at the same time, the shame of unilaterally coveting his stepsister grew in every innocent and ignorant moment. The best catalyst for love is negative emotions. The more tangled it is, the deeper it becomes. When this love was catalyzed to 100%, the person trapped in the quagmire got a response, and the darkness was illuminated. This moment was enough to be remembered forever. But the cage of morality still imprisoned him. He wanted to reach out across the cage but didn't dare to. In his hesitation and cowardice, his light left sadly, and the news that she was going to get engaged to another man came out. Even though he knew that they had an engagement long ago and should give his blessing, it still felt like his heart was being stabbed by a knife. Love and regret almost destroyed my brother, who had always been noble and proud. At this time, with just a gentle push with the help of the system, the beast could break out of the cage and be led by the half-reluctant and half-willing woman into the real abyss. From the beginning to the end, this woman was so pure and innocent. It was he who had made such a big mistake and he was willing to be wrong forever. Recalling the past, I couldn't help but applaud. What a pair of immoral and shameless lovers, but this time, I definitely won't give them a chance. I was sitting in the living room playing chess with my brother while Chloe was choosing clothes in her room. I heard her discussing with the system. She was going on a date with Zachary tomorrow. She had prepared herself as a gift to surprise Zachary. It's just that a surprise is always more lively with more people. Who should be invited to celebrate for them? I rubbed the chess pieces and stared at the chessboard. Suddenly, they all had names in my mind. It was too dangerous to let my brother go. He was currently in the state of having a hazy affection for Chloe without realizing it. He mustn't be given the slightest chance to see this sister as a woman. If I let mom and dad go, even if something really happened, they would cover it up for their precious daughter. It would be too deliberate if I went. I held a chess piece and hovered it above the chessboard. After a long while, I finally raised my finger and pushed away one of the chess pieces on the chessboard and placed my own piece down. The chess piece that was pushed away was named Hannah. Hannah was a cellist at the Conservatory of Music and usually performed in the theater troupe. But today, there was no performance of hers in the theater troupe. The schedules were all filled by musical actors from other places. However, I heard that Hannah's best friend liked this musical actor very much. She would come to watch every performance of his without getting tired of it. So I proposed to my brother that I wanted to take a walk. While we were walking, we happened to pass by that theater. The entrance of the theater was filled with posters. I stared at those posters for a while and then my brother asked me beside me if I wanted to buy tickets and go in to have a look. Everything went smoothly as expected. Section 2. Start to fight back. Although I hadn't dealt with Hannah's good friends, I recognized that face that always hovered around Hannah and glared at me angrily. After the performance ended, I was in high spirits. I went on stage to present flowers and passed by that face on the stage. I knew she would definitely recognize me. Just like the ugly duckling can recognize which is the swan's feather at a glance among a flock of white feathers because it cares too much. After presenting the flowers, I told my brother that I wanted to go to the washroom. I chose a small cubicle, took out my mobile phone, and started talking. This was the psychologist's suggestion. When I wanted to pour out my feelings but was reluctant to speak, I could record my voice on the mobile phone. I came to watch the performance with my brother today, but I still can't be happy because I accidentally heard Chloe say that she's going to have a date with Zachary at a hot spring homestay tomorrow night. At this point, I sobbed twice. I smelled the familiar perfume from the next cubicle, which was especially pungent when mixed with the Chloe also said that she would give Zachary a big surprise. Although I don't know what the surprise is. I have a hunch that as long as tonight passes, the two of them will be inseparable. At this point, I sobbed twice. I smelled the familiar perfume from the next cubicle, which was especially pungent when mixed with the fragrance in the washroom. This was the scent that came from her when I passed by her. Chloe is my sister. I can only sincerely wish them happiness. And Chloe doesn't want this matter to be known. I don't know if I should tell my brother either. Forget it. Zachary was supposed to be Chloe's fiancé. I should help them get together. The perfume smell floating over became stronger and stronger. I even suspected that she was lying directly on the partition. This woman's father is an executive in Hannah's family's company. She has been Hannah's eyes and ears since high school, putting Hannah first in everything and being extremely loyal. She will definitely tell Hannah every word of what I just said. Hannah has been unable to forget Zachary for so many years. She always thought that as long as she got rid of me, Zachary would surely fall in love with her. This has almost become her obsession. But now suddenly Chloe has appeared and charmed Zachary to the point of being head over heels in just a few months. How could she be reconciled to it? What's more, I've always been the biggest enemy on her path of love. She's inferior to me in every aspect. She's been holding her breath for so many years, wanting to beat me. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so impatient at the birthday banquet last time. Now that she knows that I've not only lost but also suffered a painful defeat, she will definitely use all means to climb up and prove that she's better than me. As for that outsider, with her bad temper, when I knew that she had booked the hot spring homestay that Zachary and I had been to before, I understood what she was up to. She would definitely go to the orange-red courtyard. I recorded a few more blessings for Chloe in a crying voice before stopping, carefully saved the recording, and left the washroom. I don't know what Hannah will do after knowing this news, but I believe she won't let me down. She used to be my rival, and I know my rival very well. Hannah's father has had a lot of affairs outside these years. But no matter what he did, Hannah and her mother firmly held the reins of the family, and not even a butterfly could fly in. She's best at dealing with these shady things. And I just need to be a bystander. Early the next morning, Chloe went out and didn't come back all night, saying that she went to soak in the hot springs with some friends. However, just after midnight, a gossip suddenly exploded all over the internet. The wife caught the mistress at the hot spring, but was brutally beaten by her husband because the mistress was too beautiful. The title, full of melodramatic elements, caught people's eyes. Anyone who saw it would click on the videos and pictures in this gossip to see how beautiful the mistress was. I was quite satisfied with Hannah's cleverness. She didn't choose formal gossip media and avoided the risk of being managed by public relations in the first place. She directly leaked the news to marketing accounts and self-media, concealed the identity information of the two people, and made it go viral purely relying on the melodrama and highlights. Even in the video, she didn't call out the names of Chloe and Zachary, but just shouted, "Why are you two here?" This is something that Chloe won't understand. It's the consensus among the wealthy and noble. When everyone forms a circle and builds high walls and steps outside this circle, then we won't care much about the rumors outside because they can't affect us. We only care about the opinions of people in the same circle. Only when the reputation in the circle is ruined is it really ruined. From the very beginning, the purpose of Hannah and me was not to make Chloe's scandal known to everyone. It was enough to let all the people in the circle who knew Chloe's face know about this matter. There is a set way for information to circulate within the circle. In the video, at the moment when the door was broken open, the fleeting naked bodies of the two people on the bed were blurry but said it all. The approaching camera just took a close-up of the hickey on Chloe's collarbone and her shocked face. When she screamed and got into the quilt, and Zachary picked up the ashtray angrily and threw it over, the camera also calmly took a shot of the used condom on the floor. It seems that Hannah hired professional paparazzi. The footage captured enough material. I just don't know how she got people in and managed to do this. Neither the Zachary family nor the Jewell family is something that Hannah can trample on at will. If there isn't a reasonable excuse, the Hannah family will definitely be in trouble. Before dawn, the whole truth of the matter rolled out like a shelled egg. Gossip won't change because of one's social status. It's said that Hannah went to catch her father cheating with her mother. Hannah's father is nearly 50 years old but still has a lot of energy. He has a college student as his mistress outside. It's said that Hannah's father has done this kind of thing a lot before. Whether it's young models, minor actresses, or beautiful young married women, he wanted to have a taste of all of them, but they were all just fleeting and didn't cause much trouble.